The Sneaker Pimps burst onto the music scene with a fresh sound that got everyone talking. However, every story has its ups and downs. After their rapid rise, the Sneaker Pimps faced challenges that led to their fall from the spotlight. But is this where their story ends? Come along as we explore the history of the Sneaker Pimps to discover if they managed to make a comeback. In 1994, in the small English town of Hartlepool, 4 music-loving friends came together to create something unique. They aimed to blend electronic beats with smooth melodies. These friends, Liam Howe, Chris Corner, Joe Wilson, and David Westlake, formed a band and named it Sneaker Pimps. But how did they come up with such an unusual name? It was inspired by a fun story they read in the Beastie Boys magazine, Grand Royal. The article talked about a man hired to hunt down rare and classic sneakers. The friends found the name quirky and thought it was the perfect fit for their band. Soon, they released their first big album, Becoming X. This album was special because it mixed dreamy sounds with catchy beats. The band also had a fantastic singer, Kelly Ali, whose soft voice added magic to the music. 2 songs from the album became super popular around the world, 6 Underground and Spin Spin Sugar. 6 Underground had a calm, smooth vibe, making people feel like they were floating through city streets late at night. On the other hand, Spin Spin Sugar had a faster beat, making people want to dance. This song became so popular that a famous DJ even remixed it into a faster, club-ready version, which people loved. The Sneaker Pimps became famous, traveling around the world, playing their music, and making people dance and dream. But as time passed, Liam and Chris wanted to take the band in a new direction. After the success of Becoming X, they made a bold decision. They asked Kelly to leave the band. Instead, Chris Corner decided to take over as the lead singer. The band's music grew darker and moodier, reflecting Chris's style. However, big changes kept coming. Soon, Joe Wilson and Dave Westlake also left the band, leaving just Liam and Chris. For a while, the Sneaker Pimps faded into the background as both members focused on other projects. Chris even started his own solo project called IAMX, while Liam worked on producing music for other artists. For years, fans wondered if the Sneaker Pimps were gone forever. But what exactly caused their fall? Did they ever make it back to the spotlight? In the 1980s, in the small town of Hartlepool, England, 2 teenagers, Chris Corner and Liam Howe, met and quickly bonded over their shared love for music. And how did they even rise? While most teens were busy with school and hobbies, Chris and Liam spent hours experimenting with sounds, recording tracks, and exploring how different beats and melodies could fit together. They weren't just making simple songs, they were playing with music in a way that felt new and exciting. Their passion led them to form a band called Frisk. It wasn't a typical rock band or pop group. Instead, Frisk blended electronic beats with soft, acoustic folk sounds. It was a strange but beautiful mix that gave birth to a new kind of music that would later be called trip-hop, a style known for its chilled-out beats and moody vibes. Frisk released an EP called Soul of Indiscretion, which showed their unique style. They kept pushing boundaries with 2 more instrumental EPs, Frisk and World as a Cone. The music world took notice, and they got signed by Cleanup Records, a small label that supported fresh and experimental artists. But Chris and Liam didn't stop there. They also worked as DJs and music producers under a different name, Line of Flight, where they explored even more sounds and styles. Then, in 1994, the 2 friends decided it was time for something bigger. They wanted to create music that could reach more people, so they formed a new group, Sneaker Pimps. Their idea was simple: combine deep beats, catchy melodies, and thoughtful lyrics into something totally fresh. To perfect their sound, they brought in Ian Pickering to help write lyrics. They started recording demo tracks, with Chris Corner singing the vocals. But as they listened to the music, they felt something was missing. The soft, trip-hop beats seemed like they would sound better with a female voice leading the songs. Their manager had a suggestion. He'd seen a talented singer named Kelly Ali performing with her band, the Lumieres, in a local pub. Intrigued, Chris and Liam went to watch her. Instantly, they were impressed. Kelly had a dreamy, smooth voice that felt like it was made for their music. They invited her to record some demo tracks, including an early version of what would become their hit song, 6 Underground. The magic was undeniable. Kelly's voice fit perfectly with their sound. Soon after, she officially joined the band. With Kelly on vocals, the demos caught the attention of Virgin Records, and the band signed a major record deal. To complete their live band, they added Joe Wilson on bass and Dave Westlake on drums. But the core trio, Liam Howe, Chris Corner, and Kelly Alley, were the face of Sneaker Pimps. In 1996, the band released their first album, Becoming X. The response was massive. Songs like Six Underground and Spin Spin Sugar became global hits, filling radios, nightclubs, and even movie soundtracks. The album sold over 1 million copies, making Sneaker Pimps an international success. For the next 2 years, they toured non-stop, performing with other big artists like Aphex Twin. But the endless travel and pressure started causing tension within the band. The US tour was especially tough, so exhausting that Liam Howe left the tour early, feeling burned out. In 1998, they released Becoming Remixed, an album filled with new versions of their songs remixed by famous DJs. But behind the scenes, big changes were brewing. Liam and Chris wanted to evolve their music. They built their own recording studio, naming it Line of Flight after their old DJ name. While Kelly Ali took a break to travel after the grueling tour, Liam and Chris started working on demos for their next album. This time, Chris Corner sang the vocals again. When Kelly returned, excited to work on new music, she was shocked. Chris and Liam told her they felt her voice no longer fit the darker, more experimental direction they wanted for the band. They believed Chris's own voice suited the new material better. It wasn't just about the music. There had also been growing personality clashes, and the band was worried about being stuck in the female-fronted trip-hop label. Though it was a difficult decision, Kelly Ali was asked to leave the band, and the band moved forward with Chris as the new lead singer. This marked a new chapter for Sneaker Pimps, while they continued to explore deeper, more complex sounds. What was this new chapter like, and what exactly led to their fall? Although the behind-the-scenes tensions weren't obvious, the decline of Sneaker Pimps began after the huge success of their 1996 debut album, Becoming X. With its mix of electronic beats, trip-hop vibes, and Kelly Ali's smooth vocals, the band quickly became a global sensation. Tracks like Six Underground and Spin Spin Sugar were everywhere, on the radio, in clubs, and featured in movie soundtracks. Fans couldn't get enough, and it seemed like the band's future was full of promise. But behind the scenes, cracks were starting to show. When Liam Howe and Chris Corner decided to change the band's direction, they made a risky move by firing Kelly Ali, feeling that her voice no longer matched the darker, more experimental music they wanted to make. Instead, Chris Corner stepped up as the lead singer. It was a bold decision, but it came with heavy consequences. Virgin Records, the major label that had helped the band rise to fame, wasn't happy about the change. They believed Kelly was a big part of what made the band successful. Without her, they thought the band wouldn't appeal to the same audience. As a result, Virgin Records dropped the Sneaker Pimps from their label. Despite this major blow, Liam and Chris didn't give up. In 1999, they released their second album, Splinter, under Cleanup Records, a much smaller label. This album had a darker, more personal sound, reflecting the shift they had wanted. However, it didn't connect with the wider audience the way Becoming X had. There were no big radio hits, and the album failed to match the commercial success of their debut. Still, the band pushed forward. In 2001, they toured Europe, opening for the popular band Placebo, using the opportunity to premiere new songs. Fans who still followed them were excited, hoping for a comeback. Soon, the Sneaker Pimps released their third album, Bloodsport, through Tommy Boy Records. It continued their darker, more aggressive sound, but again, it didn't make the same impact as their early work. Around this time, Liam and Chris found more success behind the scenes, writing and producing songs for other artists, including the famous singer Natalie Imbruglia. They also kept remixing tracks under their old DJ name, Line of Flight. But the band was slowly falling apart. In 2002, both Joe Wilson, bass, and Dave Westlake, drums, left the group, leaving just Liam and Chris. The following year, in 2003, they started working on a fourth album, often called SP4 by fans. It originally began as a soundtrack for an indie film project called Blind Michael, but when the film fell through, the album was shelved and never officially released. Some of the songs from this abandoned project didn't go to waste, though. Chris Corner used a few of them in his new solo project, IAMX. which he launched soon after. As IAMX gained momentum, Chris focused more on his solo work, leaving Sneaker Pimps in limbo. The band faced more false starts and scrapped ideas. Then, in a strange twist, something unexpected happened. In 2006, Liam and Chris recorded new demo tracks with a mysterious female singer. These demos were never officially released, but somehow, a mini-disc containing the tracks was found in a bar in Russia. The songs quickly leaked online, became known among fans as the SP5 demos. After some speculation, it was confirmed that these were indeed new Sneaker Pimps tracks. Fans were excited, but the band still didn't officially release them or continue with the project. By this point, the Sneaker Pimps had faded from the spotlight. Chris focused fully on IAMX, which became successful in its own right, while Liam continued working behind the scenes in music production. The fall of Sneaker Pimps wasn't sudden. It was a slow process filled with bold choices, creative risks, and missed opportunities. While they never regained the massive fame of becoming X, their music left a lasting legacy. And though the band seemed to fade away, the SP4 and SP5 demos kept hope alive for fans who still dreamed of a proper comeback. While fans dreamt of a proper comeback, what were the members of the band doing during this period? After the Sneaker Pimps broke up, the band members didn't just disappear, they each followed their own paths, diving into new projects and exploring different creative worlds. Though they were no longer working together as a band, their love for music and art continued to guide them. After the band split, Chris Corner didn't slow down. In 2006, he packed his bags and moved to Berlin, a city known for its creative energy and electronic music scene. There, he started a new project called IAMX, where he combined music, art, and visual storytelling. IAMX wasn't just another band, it was Chris's personal world, where he could fully express himself without limits. But Berlin wasn't just about creativity. Chris faced some tough times, battling depression and insomnia, which deeply affected his music. Eventually, he left Berlin and moved to Los Angeles, hoping for a fresh start. Despite his struggles, he kept creating powerful music that spoke about mental health, emotions, and identity. Chris worked on several IAMX albums during this time, each one reflecting his personal journey. Kingdom of Welcome Addiction, an album about finding strength and self-acceptance. Dogmatic Infidel Come Down. Okay, a remix album that gave new life to earlier tracks. Volatile Times, a darker, more emotional dive into his inner world. IAMX built a strong fan base, especially among people who connected with Chris's honest take on emotional struggles and personal freedom. While Chris went deep into his solo art, Liam Howe took a different path. He became a successful music producer. Instead of staying in the spotlight, Liam worked behind the scenes, helping other artists craft their sounds. His ability to blend electronic music with emotional depth made him a go-to producer for rising stars and established acts. Liam's work shaped the sounds of many pop and alternative artists, proving that he didn't need to be front and center to make a big impact. Joe Wilson and Dave Westlake, who had been part of the Sneaker Pimps as a guitarist and drummer, also moved on to new adventures. Joe Wilson shifted his focus to film production and also stepped into the world of academia, sharing his creative knowledge with students and future filmmakers, while Dave Westlake explored similar paths, working behind the scenes in film and education. But they didn't leave music behind completely. Both Joe and Dave continued to work on remixes for other artists, including well-known pop acts like Natalie Imbruglia. Remixes added fresh spins to popular songs, blending their Sneaker Pimps experience with new styles. After being the iconic voice of Becoming X, Kelly Ollie decided to follow her own creative path. After leaving the Sneaker Pimps, she launched a solo career that let her fully control her musical direction. Kelly's solo work was softer, more melodic, and often inspired by folk and dream pop. She moved away from trip-hop beats and focused on crafting beautiful, atmospheric songs that highlighted her unique voice. Albums like Tiger Mouth and Psychic Cat showed a new side of Kelly, one that wasn't afraid to experiment while staying true to her gentle, emotional style. Though the Sneaker Pimps went their separate ways, they never stopped being creative. Their time apart allowed them to grow as individuals, each exploring their passions in new ways. And even though they were on different paths, the spirit of the Sneaker Pimps lived on in their work. But did they ever reunite? After the fall of the Sneaker Pimps in the early 2000s, the band members went their separate ways. Fans thought the Sneaker Pimps were gone for good. Years passed, and the band became more of a memory, until whispers of a comeback began to surface. In 2015, after years of silence, Liam Howe dropped a hint that excited longtime fans. In an interview, he suggested that Sneaker Pimps might reform. It wasn't a solid promise, but it was enough to spark hope among those who still loved the band's unique blend of trip-hop and electronica. Then, the next year, fans finally got confirmation. Chris Corner officially announced that the band was reuniting. After more than a decade apart, the Sneaker Pimps were back together and ready to create again. Between 2016 and 2019, the band worked quietly, building new material while keeping details under wraps. By early 2019, reports confirmed that they were working on a new album. In the meantime, they also announced plans to re-release their classic albums in deluxe box sets, making them available for both longtime fans and new listeners. Finally, in May 2021, the band made a big announcement. Their long-awaited album, titled Squaring the Circle, was on its way. This would be their first full studio album in nearly 20 years. The album was crafted in two very different places: Sawtooth Studios in the desert town of Pioneer Town, California, and the Tower Studios in busy London, England. This blend of desert calm and urban energy added a unique flavor to the music. This time around, the vocals were shared. Chris Corner took the lead on many tracks, but the band also featured a new voice, Simone Jones, who brought fresh energy and a modern twist to the songs. But there was another surprise for dedicated fans. 5 songs on the album were actually reworked versions of tracks from the long-lost SP5 demos. These demos had been leaked online years earlier after someone found a mysterious mini-disc in a Russian bar. Fans had cherished those raw, unfinished tracks for years, and now they were officially polished and part of the new album. The reworked songs included Lifeline, which was originally titled Samaritan, Child in the Dark, originally titled Satellite, So Far Gone, originally titled Sun Ate the Moon, Come Like the Cure, originally titled Elias, and No Show, originally titled Rush. Squaring the Circle wasn't just a random comeback. It was a thoughtful return that honored the band's history while introducing new sounds. The album mixed the haunting trip-hop style that made them famous with fresh energy from modern electronic music. For fans, the comeback was more than just new music. It was a full-circle moment. The Sneaker Pimps had gone from a teenage dream in Hartlepool to global fame through tough breaks and long silences, only to return with a new chapter. The release of Squaring the Circle in 2021 showed that even after years of ups and downs, creative sparks never really die. They just wait for the right moment to ignite again. And for the Sneaker Pimps, that moment had finally come. How did they influence the music world? What was their impact on future generations of artists and fans alike? The Sneaker Pimps may not have been the biggest band in the world, but their unique sound left a deep mark on music. Born in the 1990s during the rise of trip-hop, a genre that mixed hip-hop beats, electronic sounds, and moody vibes, the band helped shape the sound of an entire era. Their debut album, Becoming X, arrived at just the right time. The world was already vibing to trip-hop thanks to bands like Massive Attack, Portishead, and Tricky, but the Sneaker Pimps brought something fresh to the table. Their music was dark but catchy, mysterious yet playful. Songs like Six Underground and Spin Spin Sugar weren't just hits, they became part of pop culture. While many trip-hop artists leaned heavily into deep atmospheric sounds, Sneaker Pimps mixed things up. They blended smooth hip-hop beats with dreamy melodies and catchy choruses, making their music perfect for both chill listening and late-night dance floors. Six Underground became an anthem. Its hypnotic beat, soft vocals, and jazzy trumpet hook made it instantly recognizable. The song appeared in movies, TV shows, and commercials, helping it reach audiences far beyond underground music fans. Then there was Spin Spin Sugar, originally a trippy, laid-back song, but when remixed by Armand Van Helden, it transformed into a high-energy club banger. This remix became a massive hit in nightclubs, helping bridge the gap between trip-hop and house music, and it introduced Sneaker Pimps to an entirely new audience. One of the Sneaker Pimps' biggest contributions to music was their refusal to stick to one genre. They blended electronica, alternative rock, pop, and dance music into something unique. This genre-bending approach influenced many artists who came after them. Bands and producers saw how the Sneaker Pimps mixed soft female vocals with hard beats, creating a contrast that was both edgy and smooth. This style influenced future electronic acts like 07, Goldfrapp, and even parts of the XX's dreamy, minimalist sound. Though Kelly Ali was only the lead singer for their first album, her soft, airy voice became a blueprint for future female-fronted electronic music. Her performance on Becoming X showed how a delicate voice could cut through heavy beats and still carry emotional weight. This paved the way for other female vocalists in electronic music. Artists like Frou Frou, featuring Imogen Heap, Lamb with Lou Rhodes, and even more modern acts like London Grammar followed a similar path, pairing soft, haunting vocals with deep, electronic production. The Spin Spin Sugar remix wasn't just a hit, it became a defining moment for late 90s club culture. DJs saw the potential in remixing slower, trip-hop tracks into fast-paced dance floor hits. This helped push the idea that electronic music wasn't locked into one tempo or mood. The Sneaker Pimps' openness to remixes made their music flexible. It could exist both in smoky lounges and energetic nightclubs. This adaptability encouraged other bands to let DJs play with their music, leading to more crossovers between alternative and dance scenes. Even after their initial rise to fame, the Sneaker Pimps kept a dedicated fan base. When they shifted their style in later albums, getting darker, moodier, and moving away from the trip-hop sound, some fans drifted away, but many stuck around, appreciating the band's willingness to evolve. When they broke up, unreleased demos like SP4 and the leaked SP5 tracks became treasures for fans, spreading across the internet and building a sense of mystery around the band. This underground buzz kept their legacy alive, even during their years of silence. Then, their 2021 comeback with Squaring the Circle proved that the Sneaker Pimps' influence still had power. Their return wasn't just a nostalgia trip, it showed that their music still resonate in a world now filled with genre-bending artists they helped inspire. While the Sneaker Pimps never became as globally famous as some of their trip-hop peers, their fingerprints are all over modern music. Trip-hop's mainstream moment? They helped push it further with catchy singles, electronic music blending with pop and rock. They were doing it before it was cool, club-ready remixes of moody songs. Their success with Spin Spin Sugar opened that door. Their fearless approach to music, mixing styles, changing lineups, and taking creative risks, helped future artists realize that they didn't need to fit into one box. The Sneaker Pimps didn't just make cool songs, they helped shape the sound of a decade. They showed that electronic music could be emotional, that trip-hop could hit the dance floor, and that sometimes the biggest influence doesn't come from the loudest voice, but from the ones that leave an echo that lingers for years. The Sneaker Pimps made a big impact on the music world, and while they didn't collect many traditional awards, their success and influence are undeniable. Their debut album, Becoming X, earned silver status from the British phonographic industry for selling over 60,000 copies in the UK. Their hit single, 6 Underground, reached number 9 on the UK singles chart and number 45 on the US Billboard Hot 100, showing their wide international appeal. Even without many formal awards, the Sneaker Pimps left a lasting mark on pop culture. Their music influenced many electronic and trip-hop artists, and 6 Underground remains a timeless classic featured in films and TV shows. And yet, after years apart, the Sneaker Pimps reunited and released their long-awaited album, Squaring the Circle. Though it didn't achieve the commercial success of their earlier work, the album was well received by loyal fans and critics who praised its artistic depth and nostalgic vibes. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.